Hello and welcome back to Talking Europe. I'm Armand Georgian at the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Is there a European way of life? If so, how should it be defined? And is it under threat? A fierce argument is underway in this assembly after the incoming president of the European Commission proposed a new portfolio overseeing migration policy and protecting our way of life. Some have said Ursula von der Leyen is implying that Europeans need protection from migrants. Others firmly reject the idea that she is making any such insinuation. Well, for this debate, I'm joined by two MEPs. Firstly, Marco Campomenosi from the Identity and Democracy Group in the European Parliament. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
So, Marco Campomenosi's party, the League, was until recently part of the Italian government, and it is well known for its hard line on migration. I'm also joined by Claude Moraes, a British MEP from the group of Socialists and Democrats, and he has roundly criticised the proposal made by Ursula von der Leyen. Claude Moraes, welcome to the programme as well. So let's start with you. This idea of protecting our way of life, is it actually a storm in a teacup? Because if you look at the details of what Ursula von der Leyen is saying, she mentions nothing about identity, Christianity, ethnicity, race, nothing like that. She's just talking about integration and skills and labour.
Yeah, there's nothing in her background that suggests that there was a negative motivation. You know, I don't believe that she personally was being negative, but I think the phrase has unfortunate resonance in the current climate. And if you have a migration commissioner, Skeen Haas, who will take the portfolio of migration in the current climate, given what is happening in the European Union, as you said, protecting us from migrants, is very unfortunate. This will be used against the European Union when we are trying to create progressive policies to deal with this issue. Now, the European Union is a union of values, in my view. We can be proud of many of those values of human rights, many good values built up over the years. But unfortunately, this phrase, which I think has been criticised across the political spectrum, by the way, will be a handicap.
Marco Campomenosi, what do you think about this phrase, protecting our European way of life? What does it mean to you?
Well, honestly, we are a bit more concentrated on other criticism to this theme showed by Mrs. von der Leyen. Of course, it's not clear even to us what do they mean, because, of course, a certain approach to a European way of life is also respected by the legal immigrants which are sharing their lives with us in our cities, and they build up our economy with us. But the fact is that is it the same European Commission which is open to have ports open to all the immigrants, even without skis? Even how could be useful this? Is it useful for the other immigrants which are already here? Because is there a competition between the new immigrants and the old ones which are more integrated, which are asking to us, hey, but I did a lot of things to be integrated, to be in this Europe. So it's not clear for us. Even the way Mrs. von der Leyen has split the portfolios is not very clear. It seems that she wants to give something to the left, something to the center-right. Not only on immigration, but also on economics. We have a case of Dombrovskis and the Italian Commissioner Gentiloni. So we need to understand really which are the plans, apart the titles of
well, I mean, it is obviously a fudge, but she does talk a lot about managing legal migration and integrating migrants who are there legally through education, through sport. Things like that. That's something that both of you probably agree on, I suspect.
The content within the Commission, you know, can be very similar to what had happened in the last mandate. The problem is in adopting this kind of Machiavellian management consultancy speak. I mean, look at some of the titles: Commissioner for Foresight, you know, Transparency and Values. I mean, just call the Commission portfolios what they are. So if there is a Home Affairs Commissioner, fine. Migration, fine. Justice, fine. But if you start using titles which are very confusing, and also suddenly we had three vice executive vice presidents. We have more vice presidents than in a merchant bank. I mean, look, you can't have so much confusion in a brand that is the European Commission, which needs to speak to the people of the European Union. It needs to speak to the Parliament. You know, we need clarity because we have some big issues to deal with. We have the demographic issues, we have, you know, migration, we have, we have populism. All these issues are going on, the economy. So we have a commission to deal with this. We don't have to spend time, I think we would agree, on dealing with a management consultancy set of titles, which really are confusing people, as you can hear, across the political spectrum.
Yeah, I think you both agree there's a lot of language in these new portfolios, which doesn't actually mean very much, and certainly not to any ordinary person reading these briefs. But
that's not to say that some of the commissioners will be doing a good job in their portfolios. I mean, in my group, we have 10 candidates. Now, I know some of them. Nicholas, who is the Social Affairs Commissioner designate. We've seen some not in my group, Jourova, who will then do justice. I mean, transparency and values. See, there you go. I got confused for a moment what she's doing. These people are good people, but if they're given confusing portfolios, we start with a very confused commission. That's not a good start. So I think VDL of von der Leyen needs to understand this. She's coming from a ministerial background, and I think she needs to understand clarity is key for a new European Commission.
I want to talk to you about the Malta summit of Interior Ministers on September the 23rd. They're set to finalise a scheme to share migrants that have been picked up at sea between different European countries. I want to put it to you, Marco Campomenosi, that perhaps your party's policy in Italy failed because essentially you said we're not going to negotiate with the rest of the EU, we're just going to block these ports. And that did not achieve a change in European policy on migration. What is achieving a change is your successor government is agreeing to negotiate, and as a result, there is now some sharing of migrants who've been picked up at sea.
Yeah, but it depends what we are speaking about, because if you speak about the 90% of immigrants which are coming from Northern Africa, they are not escaping from wars, they are not refugees. And so it's impossible to share them. So what Salvini has chosen during his mandate as Interior Minister in Italy was to start a collaboration with the Libyan authorities, even if there are many difficulties with them, of course, but they have now instruments given by the Italian government in order to patrol the coast. And because our priority was to block the people starting from Northern Africa, and this solution has saved a lot of lives. So we cannot say that Salvini has not been successful.
It saved lives because boats, NGOs and stuff have done the work.
No, but there are clear examples of how these NGOs have operated. You can see very well. There are videos on YouTube where
but
they
I'm just
show
saying on the narrow point of saving lives. If you're insisting on saving lives, that has not been done by a government blocking ports.
But in some cases there has been a clear collaboration between the smugglers and these NGOs. You know very well there are cases which are going under courts in Italy, and something will be clearly showed to the people how these NGOs have acted. Some of them are working in a very good way in order to save lives. But what has happened in some cases with these boats going very, very close to the Libyan coast, it was a taxi service. It was not a service of
do you support do you agree with what the new Italian government is doing, that it's now actually sharing some migrants? Do you support that?
They are naive because in this case, if we introduce, we are the only party, Lega is the only party in Italy which is saying that if we introduce an automatic system of redistribution of immigrants, which will be impossible to be set up anyway.
It works for small numbers of migrants, which is currently what the flow actually is in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, but if we have a less number of immigrants, it's because of Salvini, what Salvini has done, because the message has been given to these people which knew that with Salvini it was not possible to migrate, and all the other European countries. And
is it really the case that it's only because of Salvini that we have, smaller numbers? I mean, there is the long-term EU-Turkey agreement. There are many other demographic reasons. I mean, if I could say, the Malta summit, there is some positives here. We have at least some member states recognising that you must have at least these temporary measures of some accountability and responsibility sharing. You can't have this situation of NGOs, and at least you've accepted some of the NGOs are doing a decent job, but you can't have human beings being pushed around the Mediterranean. We are the European Union, we have these responsibilities. But we do need some more permanent solution. It's tough to say this, but we have to take responsibility. Now, that's a tough thing for us to have to do, and whether that's going to be hard or soft, we will disagree on what policy that will be. But in the end, we will have to have a more firm policy. At least in Malta, I'm glad that the main member states are trying to take more responsibility, and I think that's an advance.
Let me come on to another aspect of this debate and try to link migration to the broader issues of sustainable development. And I'd like us to take a look at how a UN-funded agricultural project in Mali is stemming the brain drain of young Malians seeking work abroad. Here's a report by our Europe's teams, Mathilde Benezet and Anaïs Guérard.
14 years ago, Lassina Keita faced a tough decision. Stay in Mali and try to farm his meagre patch of land with few resources, or try his luck elsewhere. He chose to leave, but is now back and making his way farming fruit and veg.
Here I had land but no equipment to grow anything, so I went to the city to earn money. I wanted to buy a motorized pump and come back to keep farming, but I never managed to earn enough. So when I heard that I could earn a lot more by panning for gold, I left again. But it was so hard. It was only when I came back that I heard about the FIER project via our village chief.
FIER means proud in English. The project distributes financial help via the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Its aim is to help young people forge a viable future in their home regions, with the double advantage of adding value to their own lands. Lassina has since doubled the amount of farmland he started with and tripled his profits.
I've learned so much from being involved in the FIER project. I've learned how to look after my plants, make my own compost, and now I'm not just supporting myself, but my family too.
He's also learned how to maximise his yield and manage investments. Key business skills that have seen Lassina grow his farm to 3 hectares in total, including orchard, a market garden and this herd of 75 cows.
This project isn't about telling anyone how to run their business. The young person is in charge. Like with Lassina, he's a role model for young people to show them they are capable of building their self-esteem and having confidence in their country.
2/3 of Mali's population is aged under 25, and most live in rural areas. The government sees this as a key source of future economic growth.
Developing the farming sector develops Mali's economy and helps make Mali become an emerging market state. We must become capable of feeding ourselves. A country that feeds itself and works for its own development is a country that is creating wealth and jobs. For me, that's what sovereignty means. And every young person that has sovereignty and self-respect has no need to go anywhere else.
But what about other young Malians who don't have their own land? Lassina has taken on 2 other young returnees, his brother Yakuba and his best friend Soumeila. Now they're both working towards getting their own funding from the FIER project to set up on their own.
You leave your own country in the hope of finding a better future elsewhere. When life isn't working out at home, you have no choice but to leave. I went to Libya and stayed there for 7 years. Lots of people died on the way through the Sahara. The war started while I was there. They took everything I had and deported me. When I came home, I had nothing at all. So I started growing fruit and veg with Lassina. He's taught me a lot, and I'd like to go on to do even better than him. My ambition now is to make my life here. I never want to leave again.
Since its launch in 2014, the FIER project has already funded more than 4,000 young Malians. The aim is to eventually reach 15,000.
So quick reaction, Claude Morris. Is this the right way forward, to spend more money to keep Malians in Mali and stop them from effectively coming to the EU?
Well, we need partnerships with Africa, but it can't be the only tool in the box. We absolutely also have to have solutions for the Mediterranean, good integration of migrants. These are human beings. It has to be a holistic approach, not just a patronising approach. That's really important.
Marco?
Yeah, of course, we would like to have policies for repatriation of illegal immigrants, and of course we need to help people in Africa in order to develop enterprises and their skill.
With more money spent by the EU?
Why not? Why not on that? Of course, we need to coordinate these projects with the ones of the member states and private associations, because sometimes we are not only good examples as these ones we have seen in this video.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We have no time left, but thank you to Marco Campomenosi and Claude Morris. Talking Europe will be back at the same time next week. Thanks for watching. The White Shot.